Nothing quite like a nice relaxing day out on the dock. If you ever got your girlfriend or wife out on the dock relaxing, this is one way to get her attention and have a little fun with her, but I do believe there's a such thing as having too much fun with your wife, and this might cross the line just a little bit. Welcome back, guys, to this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. Speaking of having a little too much fun, why don't we go ahead and keep that as our subject this week, having a little too much fun out on the water. What does that mean? There are several different versions of that. This is one of our first versions of having too much fun on the water. This is probably one of the versions that I recommend the least, as it's definitely the version that can get you in the most trouble. Our guy here probably should have stayed in the galley of this boat, but instead he's decided he's going to venture his way out and go try and socialize and have a little more fun. But as we mentioned in the wife dock girlfriend situation, there is a such thing as having too much fun on the water, and I believe our gentleman here has probably already crossed that line. But I'll tell you what, luck is on his side. I'm not quite sure how he got off this boat, but he made it off and he is on his way to continue the fun. But there's also the comedic version of going out there and having a good time. Maybe you just like to go out there, hoon it up and laugh it up with your friends and have a good time out on the water.
What sound does a whale make?
And who can forget our full send guy? He's probably out there to have more fun than anybody. He lives life wide open throttle the entire time, but you know what? That one has consequences from time to time. When you live wide open throttle, things can go wrong, and sometimes, well, you're gonna wind up high and dry. But the reality is when you go out on the water and you have just a little bit too much fun, there's always gonna be some sort of consequences. It's not always gonna be this high and dry situation. It depends on what kind of fun you went out there to have. I mean, for full send guy, it might be high and dry. If you're one of the new boaters out there on the water, maybe you still don't quite have your sea legs yet, it might be low and wet. You never know what you're going to get until you get out there on the water. That's why you always got to keep your fun factor in check and make sure you're doing things by the book and not getting too wild and crazy with everything you have going on. If you get out there and just have too much fun, as we mentioned, the consequences will always vary. It just depends on the situation. Like maybe you and your crew decided, hey, let's go out and have a nice afternoon sail. But of course that nice afternoon sail turns to being stuck on a sandbar. Does it say big boy pants painted on the side of his boat? Maybe they were having a little bit more fun than we thought. Or maybe that nice afternoon cruise you thought you would go out there and have with your friends all of a sudden turns into a little bit of a nightmare situation when you forgot to check the weather because you were having too good of a time. And then of course there's always one of our favorite situations. You finally get that invite. They bring you out on the big boat only to realize you had too much fun and for some reason you never get invited back on the big boat again. And then of course you go out there with your friends and we all want to enjoy ourselves, but sometimes we can take that enjoyment to a new level. Kind of like this gentleman here. It looks like he's had probably one of the better times of the day, but he's definitely not having a good time with what's going on now. And then there's those times where you only think you're having a good time and your friends decide you're not having enough of a good time on the water, so they're going to give you that little extra nudge or push that you need to continue that time going. And of course this always leads to some interesting recoveries when you get those friends who want to help you out. And of course it's not just about the recovery. Sometimes we can have too good of a time down at the launch. Man, we want to get out there on the water any way we can, and we might not always think that through, and well, the fun can turn a little sideways pretty fast sometimes. And then of course there's always another one of our endearing favorites, and that's that hold my beer and watch this have a good time person. These ones can really be some of the more interesting ones out on the water. They will come up with ideas and things you've never even thought of, things that you would never even imagine you're going to see on the water, but they are always down for a good time on the water, and most of us know that person that is that hold my beer and watch this type of person. We always know one thing for sure: if they're around, we need to have our camera at the ready because you never know what you're going to get. It could be any kind of wild idea from, hey, let's build this raft and send it over the falls, to, hey, watch where I can dock the boat. I can put this thing anywhere. And there is one big misconception about this group of people. A lot of times people consider this group the amateurs, the people who don't really know what they're doing, but that's not always the case. Even the pros can have that guy behind the helm that says, hold my beer and watch this. Let's get us a couple extra pieces of cargo and we're going to get them onto our boat. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening in your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Jay Hone Spina, F. Ross Pierce, Kayla Henry, Lua Bina, Stephen Massamy, Tim Hayes, Calumet IS, Hans Callhurt, Megan Elizabeth, and Beavis Morgan did this week. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.